Good evening, everybody. Welcome to your Rangers Review Transfer Deadline Day show as we whittle down the hours to the window slamming shut. It always slams shut when it comes to football. Closes at 11 p.m. So we're going to bring you all the latest transfer news over the course of the next 2 hours or so. It brings me great joy to say for the first hour, we're joined by Joshua and Blair. First of all, Joshua, how goes it? Busy all day so far?
Yeah, busy day. Me and Blair have been sat side by side in Rangers HQ for too many hours, so not quite as enthusiastic as your good evening. But yeah, always exciting, Derek, and always interesting to have a deal going down to the wire as opposed to us trying to, stretch out conversation points, knowing that there might not be any business, which is something we may have had to do before. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get plenty to discuss. Blair also joins us. How goes it, Blair?
Yeah, good evening, Derek. Like Joshua said, it's been a bit of a long one, as transfer deadline day always is. We have been sitting next to HQ, discussing all.
Oh, we might have lost Blair already, which isn't good. But
we'll take him out. Well, listen, Derek. Let's bring in Chris. If Blair can't get his Wi-Fi working, let's bring in Chris. That's what we need.
Yeah, he needs a big entrance because he's getting used to.
Derek, can we just say that?
Yeah,
Chris and I.
Yep, we're just missing the 2 cans of lager, Chris. If you've got any cans of Budweiser there, then feel free to smash them up and drink them simultaneously. But Joshua, on you go.
I was just going to say, Chris and I, you and Johnny thought that would be the best thing in the world. Chris and I thought would be the worst. So just to kind of get our cards on the table early, Chris, and keep our names intact.
For the record, I had absolutely nothing to do with that. What the viewers cannot see is that there's a man off stage who happens to be my boss, who is thoroughly enjoying himself and is laughing away. So again, for the record, I have to say that it was an excellent idea and it really enjoys it, but that's just so that he signs off my expenses next month. We will be having lunch in private.
Right, Chris, a big build-up. You're in on the stage. You've came into the ring. You've got the microphone. Lay the smackdown. What's happening?
Joe Rothwell has signed for Sheffield United. I got my Sheffields mixed up there. No, I think I assume you're referring to a striker deal. As we understand that Rangers are getting closer to completing the signing of Ryan Naderi. I think we spoke the other day there, Derek. Did we decide if it could be classed as a saga or not? I think you said it had to be 10 to 14 days before it could be a saga. So in your book, we're not quite there yet.
No, but it was sort of edging that way, wasn't it? If the interest sort of spiked when the window first opened and we're at this stage, then I would call it a saga. But it doesn't qualify for a saga for me. Joshua, would it be called a saga for you?
After today, I'm 1,000,000% calling it a saga. Yes, I think it's been a saga. Whenever something goes this late, whenever it reaches, I think there's real potential. This is going to smash the record for the 3rd division of a transfer fee paid in the German, paid to the a German 3rd division club. Now, I don't know, Derek, what the previous record holder of that was, but it's certainly, even since last night when Chris reported that, this agreement was in place for the summer, the movement that's taken place since then, I'm classing it a saga, 100%.
Fair enough. Right, Ryan Naderi then, Chris. Looks like Rangers are getting their man. What's the latest then with regards to that?
Regardless of how we're going to classify it, I think the most important thing is that this one gets done. Obviously, I think there are reports elsewhere, reports in Germany that this is all done, it's signed, it's sealed, it's finalised. As we understand it, that's not quite the case. But before I get a million Grim Reaper emojis sent and pictures sent at me on Twitter, we're not saying that this will not go through. We're not saying that it's dead. We're not saying there's nothing in it. We're just saying that it's not signed as yet. Nothing has been finalised, but Rangers are confident, and this is moving closer to completion. A deal that we've also spoken quite a lot about over the last few days. Certainly spoken an awful lot about it over the course of today. I'm not sure how many times I've actually typed the words Ryan and Naderi over the last week or so since this news first broke. But Rangers, it looks like, will get their man. So not quite scarf above the head stuff yet, but certainly positive noises coming out on this one, and Rangers all going to plan will get their man before 11 o'clock tonight.
It's a lot of money, isn't it, Chris?
It is. I think that probably sums up two parts of this. It sums up the faith that Rangers clearly have in him, that they believe this is a player that can come in and contribute right now, but also a player that has got levels to move through. They clearly believe that he's someone that's got a high ceiling, and that you're buying into that potential. It also strikes into Rangers need a striker, and when you get not desperate, but when you get down to this stage and you know you need a striker in, Hansa have held quite a lot of cards over the course of this deal. They've been able to dictate how this has unfolded. They made it really clear early on that they didn't want to lose a player at this stage. So it was always going to take Rangers perhaps paying a wee bit more. As we reported on the site on Friday, I think it was, Rangers were adamant that they wouldn't be forced into doing something that they didn't want to do, and that they wouldn't go way over the top on a transfer fee. And I don't think they would have done. I think if they believed that this fee and this deal didn't make any sense, I don't think they would have done it. They still had the option of bringing Danilo back into the country, but as we understand it, both of those moves will now be able to progress. So by the end of the night, we expect Ryan Naderi to be a Rangers player, and we expect Danilo to be an NEC player.
Interesting stuff, Joshua. This boy's coming from the third division in Germany. It's a big jump. I've got to say, now I'm not a regular viewer of third-tier German football, I've got to say, so I don't come from a vantage point that I know a great deal about it. Not Hansa Rostock are a famous old name in Germany, but it's the equivalent, I guess, of Rangers going into League One, which they did in the summer to acquire a couple of players. But Rangers need this guy to start scoring goals from the off.
They do. And as Chris said, and this is why I think it's been a saga, Derek, because as of Friday, we reported on the website that at that point an attacker, it was put to us by well-placed sources, it's 50-50 whether Rangers get another attacker in. Rostock have held the cards, and they kind of have held the cards throughout this, Derek, because Rangers need a striker, and the deal for Cameron, the deal for Cameron Archer, which again, as reported last night, there's been this agreement in place, but it's been circumstantial, and there's been a whole chain of events that, again, Chris and I have been trying to work out, speaking to people about down south with Strand Larsen and Mateta and the medical be not working at AC Milan, and what's the knock-on effect of that that has impacted the loan deal for Cameron Archer. I think Naderi looks like a good profile, and I don't think the top end of the German third tier is miles off, elements of the Scottish Premiership, and I've no doubt that all recruitment departments obviously now have the ability to kind of scale how leagues compare against one another. My concern with this would be the issues we saw at Easter Road. I don't just think they're individual. I think it's a byproduct of how Rangers are playing, Derek, because they're trying to keep clean sheets. They're trying to play for set pieces. They're not the most expressive attacking team. That's how Danny Rose got them into the title race. If they're going to win the title, that's how they will do it. I do think it's a big expectation to put on a player who hasn't played at an extraordinarily high level and doesn't have the experience of that. I was told earlier in the month that there was a bit of a debate going on internally. Some people saying, we need to keep thinking about player trading, and I think this is a player that Danny Rule likes as well. He's another big player, and Rangers really are scaling up in terms of their size. But there's another school of thought that said, let's get him in the summer. And let's get someone in now who's maybe a little bit more ready to contribute. I think there is some parallels with previous moves that Rangers have made, and there's been a bit of a belief that, look, if we don't, and Chris can maybe corroborate this or speak to this as well, if we don't get him now, we might not get him. And there is also that element of risk that you put in buying someone when they're 22 years old. But undoubtedly, Rangers do not have enough goals in that team. And it's not just about finishing, it's about the creation of chances, getting the ball at the pitch as well. I think Naderi is someone who can contribute more outside of the box. I think that will be important. The comparison to Nick, is it Valdemada? Derek, is that how I'm pronouncing it?
I'll put you up for it.
Yeah, Tim, you're the commentator. But that's something the Newcastle striker who they signed, big striker Newcastle signed in the summer, German. Yeah.
Go for it. Yeah. Go
not been watching match today.
See, I'm going to be honest here, and I really don't watch much of the Premier League anymore.
Really?
It doesn't. I don't go out my way to watch what's going on there. My focus is on specifically League One down south and Rangers.
Fair enough. Well, that was just a side point. But basically, there's some.
We digress slightly.
We digress. So a lot of people have made that comparison because he's a big guy, but he's mobile. He contributes outside the box too. But I totally agree with you that it is not you're not paying that fee in this circumstance for him to play 4, 5, 6, 7 games and be bedded in and ready for the summer. You need the future, but you also need the impact now because of where Rangers are.
Yeah. Spot on. About 1 million comments have come in, and big thank you to loads of you that have signed up to become Rangers Review Extra members. Thank you very much for your support, guys, and a few of you have donated as well to the channel, which is fantastic. Led Zipaldo says, he's asked Grock to get involved. Don't know if Grox wants to be part of the show tonight, but there you go. When did Des Lynam come out of retirement? Only joking, you're a hero, Derek. Well, that's very kind of you, Des Lynam. What a legend he is. Raiders Toolkit also gets in touch on Naderi, 3rd division, not universal quality benchmark. DE, a very different case. Their 3rd tier is full-time. Pro League that brings in crowds that would dwarf most of the Scottish Premiership, to be fair. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, absolutely. There's some, as I mentioned, Hansa Rostock are a big old club in Germany. There's a few others in that division as well that bring in fair few fans every match day. But thank you very much for your donation, Raiders Toolkit. That is very kind of you, and thank you for tuning in to the show this evening. It's good that we've got Blair back. He stuck 50 pence in the meter. How goes it, Blair?
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me now. I think we're all right. If I'm not, just feel free to kick me out again. But yeah, I was just saying it's nice to be on the early shift. I thought I was going to get booted and demoted to the 10 to 11 slot there because my Wi-Fi wasn't playing ball. So yeah, I've not signed for anyone else, contrary to some of the scurrilous rumours in the comments. I am firmly staying put this January window.
Oh, there you go. Jolly good. Right, Chris is checking his phone as we speak. Now, the format of this show, we're not going to keep Chris on for the whole duration because he has been very busy today. We'll get him in at various points if there is any news. Chris, I don't want you to maybe make a whole load of people turn off the show at this point in time, but is it worth tuning in for the duration of this show, do you reckon?
As you say, I don't want the hits to go. So again, Johnny's in the background, and if I tell it and he sees the numbers dropping off, then it'll be a bit of a blow, wouldn't it? We're still waiting on confirmation on this one. So if you want to be live with us when confirmation is received, then that would be good. If you would like to be with us when Cameron Archer signs for Rangers, then I would go and make a cup of tea, and I wouldn't expect it. I think the Archer one is one that we're now not expecting that one to go through. It looks like Naderi will be it for Rangers. So despite all the tweets that I've had over the course of the day saying waiting for my "that's Rangers done for the day" tweet, not planning on doing it just yet, but it doesn't look like Archer will be signing. But as we always say in the world of Rangers, anything can happen. So I'm not completely ruling it out just yet. But the latest word that we had on Archer was that was not going to happen. I know people are desperate for a midfielder, but that's not something that has been on been on the agenda for the last wee while. We've done a number of shows and written a number of pieces around about the transfer window of late, and a midfielder's not really been on the agenda. Big picture, people were looking for another right back and looking for another centre half and looking for this, that, and the next thing. I think we made it clear right at the start of the window, this isn't a time of year when you go and start bringing in 6-7 guys and making that level of investment in a squad. The investment in financial terms has been considerable. You're above £50 million in this squad now. Is it enough? Well, I'll leave you boys to discuss that over the next hour or so, and by the time I'm back, hopefully we will have a new Rangers striker, and that would perhaps ease that conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we'll bid you farewell for now. We are ready. Joshua, hot on the button there, or Chris has decided.
I think that was him. I think Chris just he wanted out of here.
He's had enough. He wants out of here. So there you go. It leaves us both alongside each other. Blair sorting his mic out. He's having an absolute Western super at this point in time. So hopefully he can come back for the seventh time of asking at some point. But Joshua, tell you what, see. There's a lot of disappointed comments coming in from some. Now, I think Rangers, if you look at it over the piece, you can't say Andrew Kavanagh hasn't spent to improve this squad in this window. A notoriously difficult window, of course, as Blair returns. Two Robins, a left-back comes in, Andreas Skov-Olsen, a right-winger coming in, Toshi Chukwani, a midfielder coming in, and it looks like Ryan Naderi, a centre-forward coming in. That's probably decent. I mean, the proof will be in the pudding, of course, but in terms of bringing players in, Rangers clearly have strengthened this window, have they not?
Yeah, well, if I was to ask you if and when Naderi, and as Chris says, we expect that to happen, but the final stretches of a transfer always are edgy. But if you were to come in, how many players have Rangers signed since summer? Would you know that off the top of your head, Derek? If I'm to quiz you,
17.
It is actually bang on 17. So.
There you go. That was just a guess.
Well done.
10 points to me.
Finger on the pulse. That's a lot of players. And if I was to ask you roughly what ballpark figure Rangers have spent, Derek, and you were to guess again,
I wouldn't be able to get that. Probably upwards about 40 odd million.
I think more than that. I think you're talking around about the 50 million mark, if not more, with Naderi. That's a lot of money. So I think the difficulty is here. There's a carrot at the end of the stick, which is the league title, and there's always that temptation of a little bit more investment. I don't think you can say that Andrew Kavanagh has not invested. I think you can critique certain elements of the investment. I think you can still look at Hearts and say they've spent, I don't know, what have they spent, Blair? 3 to 4 to 5 million tops. Probably not even that much. Hearts actually 3 million maybe. And you can say,
I think their biggest signing was the Brazilian boy Agiu, who came on the other night. He cost around about the £2 million mark. But in terms of the signings that everybody was talking about from Hearts, you look at Kirizidis and Braga, they were pennies compared to some of the fees that Rangers have put out this summer anyway.
Yeah, so you can talk about value, but I don't think you can say that Kavanagh hasn't put money in. Is there some question marks around why they've not went for Maswinise? I think so, Derek. And I don't count myself as a particularly populist, just sign the player that's scoring goals in the Scottish Premiership. But I do think there's an element of common sense that sometimes needs to apply. That I'm not sure as to why that has not happened. Is there still areas of the squad that are lacking, like a creative midfielder? Yes, absolutely. But there's also got to be a reasonable overview of the fact that if Rangers don't get the Champions League and then they're carrying 4 strikers or 4 players in the number 10 position, or even Finlay Curtis going out on loan, and the fact that you need to prioritise his development as well as trying to think, would he be valuable while he's back here? So I don't think it's a black or white answer. I don't think you can question the investment. And as ever, if Skov-Olsen was signing today, Derek, would the excitement and mood music be a little bit different? Yes, and I know he's not been great so far. I still think he's not been far away from a couple of assists, and actually reminds me of when Václav Černý arrived and he created that goal for Cyril Dessers away at Dynamo Kyiv, but it was taking him time to build up to speed. You could still see his quality in moments. So I don't think it's black or white. I don't think the Rangers squad is absolutely complete. I still think you can say that they've made some good additions. They've got them in early. And to go back to our previous answer, it's a lot of money committed to Naderi should that get over the line as we expect, and that will demand some sort of impact definitely between now and the end of the season.
Yep, big thank you to Charlie, who's very kindly donated a tenner as part of a super sticker. Thank you very much for that, Charlie. That's very kind of you. And Stephen also has donated to the channel. Thank you, Stephen. He says, big load of dosh in Naderi, but he's taking the same wage as Danilo. I'd hope not. Can't accuse owners of not trying to improve the squad. And I like this. We've got a German outlook on Ryan Naderi. It says he's worth every cent from a Hansa Rostock supporter. So there you go. And I think it's the highest ever fee for a player from that division, which is quite something. So Hansa Rostock certainly have done well with regards to that. Interesting point here from Prod 1872, 5k watching a record. Over on my screen, I think we're touching on 5,300 tuning into the show tonight, which is certainly huge numbers. So thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in. If you like the show, make sure you hit that like button, folks, or you can hit love as well. Love is also an option if you are loving tonight's show. It's great to have Blair back alongside us. Now, Blair, what do you make of the business in the window? Satisfied? Because there are some still dissenting voices out there that feel that Rangers haven't done enough at this point.
Yeah, love is all you need, Derek. That's all we need tonight.
Yes.
At the end of this transfer window. I have to say that I tend to agree with Josh that I think timing is everything when it comes to signings. I think if you'd asked me at the start of the window if you're getting Romans, Chukwueze and Skov Olsen, I think I would have been fairly happy with that. I think given that they all came round about the same time, given that they all came maybe 2 weeks ago, that probably changed the narrative a little bit. Like Josh said, if you're signing Skov Olsen tonight, does that make it a little bit different? Does it give people something to wait up for? Does it just build that little bit of excitement? I don't know. The fact that we've maybe seen Skov Olsen a couple of times now and he's not really set the heather on fire, obviously it is incredibly early days, but the fact that maybe we've seen Skov Olsen twice and the transfer window's still open, it's maybe pushing people into thinking that, maybe we need a little bit more again. So I don't know. I can't say I've watched a lot of Ryan Naderi. I think a lot of fans, if you asked them at the start of this window, they wouldn't have a clue who Ryan Naderi is. But I definitely do think that we need a centre forward. I said this to you, Josh, after the game yesterday. It feels like a week ago we were at Easter Road now, but only yesterday. Rangers are in desperate need of a centre forward. They're in desperate need of someone that can score goals. As far as the Tawanda Maspanise issue goes, I know I wrote about this yesterday. Sometimes the simplest answer is the right one. He's a guy who is banging in goals, just up the M8. He scored the top goal scorer in the league so far this season. Okay, Motherwell didn't want to sell him at this point in the window, but I'm pretty sure that given the right price, you could have went and got him earlier in the window. And I just hope that Rangers don't look back on this one as another cautionary tale of passing up a player that was right under their noses. How many times have we seen it before with the likes of Lewis Ferguson and so many names you can carry on with? But I don't know if this is going to be a case again of Rangers looking back at a guy who thinking, well, we could have maybe had him for maybe £3 million at the start of the window, and you look back and regret it.
Yeah, I mean, Anderlecht were said to be interested in him as well, but he's going nowhere. He's staying at Motherwell. Well done to the Steelmen, incidentally, for holding on to him. I think he's going to score a fair few more goals between now and the end of the season. Are you surprised he hasn't, even if it's not Ibrox, Joshua, he hasn't left for another club elsewhere? Because there are a lot of eyes on him. He's done really well at AFCON as well recently.
Yes, I am surprised. Because I'm going to rhyme off a few things to you, Derek. He plays in a high possession team. So it's not as if you're looking at it and going, does he only play into space? And I think he scores different types of goals. I'm not going to pretend that I've watched 25 Motherwell games this season, but I watched a little bit of them and enough to, and a lot of his goals and enough to, I think, see that there's a player there that has I feel like a variety of strengths to his game. But again, the fact that he's playing in a high possession team as a number 9, I think there's a bit of a myth that players who are fast can't play against low blocks. I think it's a lot more nuanced than that. And he's an intelligent player. I think I was speaking to someone who knows his game quite well recently, and they were saying actually one of his best attributes is how he leads a press. And that's a big underrated thing of Motherwell's game. We think of them as this team who are playing brilliant football this season, and they are, but they've also had so many clean sheets, Derek. And as managers always say, that starts at the top end of the park, doesn't it? I don't actually think that any of the Rangers strikers are brilliant at leading the press. I think Chermiti's probably the best of the bunch, and we know he has that physical profile to his game, but I don't think it's a standout attribute. He's a good tackler, and he wins balls back from kind of tackling from behind. But yeah, as I say, I think that's a strength of Mas when he says he scores different goals, and he scores goals off the right-hand side as well. Now, you've got to presume that Rangers do not think he is worth the money, and he's not going to move the dial. Yeah. But I do just find it difficult looking at the fact that he scored, I think, 13 goals in the league. Rangers do not carry enough goals, and they don't carry enough goals off the right-hand side. And because I think that knowing the league is a bit of an overrated cliche at points, but probably one time it is not, is midway through a season where you need someone to hit the ground running. Now, Ryan Naderi could come in and be brilliant. You know, I remember when Rangers signed Hamza Gaman and he hadn't played for a couple of months, and everyone was saying, myself included, why have they not gone for someone who's a better guarantee of goals? And he turned out to be an absolute maverick, didn't he? And Rangers had to buy him, admittedly for a much lower fee, but they had to buy him before he was unreachable in terms of the money they could pay for him. But I do find the Mas when he say lack of interest, lack of contact, I do find that surprising given all the circumstances outlined.
Yep, and if you're just tuning in, folks, just a heads up of what is happening at this point in time. Rangers pushing to get Ryan Naderi in the door before the transfer deadline, and there's growing confidence that he will be a Rangers player. Joe Rothwell has joined Sheffield United on a permanent deal. Danilo will return to the Netherlands to sign for NEC Nijmegen if Rangers get that deal for Naderi over the line. So many comments coming in. Apologies if I don't get to some of them. Big thank you to Thierry. He's kindly donated to the channel. Says, from what I hear, he won't be here for another 6 months. You'll need a striker in now, whether permanent or loan. Go and get Maspanisi for 3 million. So he's a big Maspanisi fan. Big thank you to David McFarlane, who's very kindly donated to the channel as well. He says, my worry is we could sign any striker. However, I don't think we have the cutting edge behind the striker. I haven't seen a good 45 to 90 minutes of open play so far this season. Negative or worth a chat? It certainly is worth a chat. David got a point there, Blair?
Yeah, he does. I think part of the reason why Rangers haven't been scoring goals, and myself and Joshua have talked about this at length on a Saturday morning show, where we talk about the lack of creativity, we talk about the lack of cutting edge in the Rangers team, and there's real lack of chance creators. Of course, Andreas Skov-Olsen was signed to be that guy. He's not shown that yet, but I think we need to give him a little bit of time to make his way into this team. I think that hopefully when he gets up to speed, you'll start to see a little bit more of Jedi Gisama as well. And then obviously Tello Asgard, you're hoping to be a bit more of a creative outlet. Mikey Moore was definitely the most creative of all four on Sunday when he came on the park. I said this before, that Mikey Moore starts every big game for me now. I think he just offers you so much more than Jedi Gisama and Tello Asgard. I don't know where you fit him in, whether it is on that left, whether it's in the middle, but I think his ability to pick the ball up and carry it, and his ability to make those driving runs and make those precise passes, I just think is second to none in this Rangers team. So I think that he would offer you a little bit of a salve to that creative problem. But to be fair, I'm about 70-30 in as much as 70% yes, Rangers aren't making any chances for a centre forward. But for me, Rangers don't currently have that striker that has that sort of predatory instinct to shoot on sight, to want to go and make themselves a goal, to be able to spin their man. Majowski, of course, he was that player in Aberdeen. He played a bit more over the shoulder. He was a bit of a finisher, but for whatever reason, that's not been the player that Rangers have got. Yusuf Chermiti on Sunday was the complete antithesis of everything that I would say Rangers need in a centre forward. And I know that sounds harsh, and I know Joshua, you probably pick me up saying that he does do nice things, and I don't want to paint you as a complete Yusuf Chermiti defender here, but when I watched him on Sunday,
he didn't look like he wanted to spin his man. For a guy who's so physical, he didn't look like he wanted to pin his defender and try and get round him. He didn't look like he wanted to shoot. And I've never known centre forward not to want to shoot, not to want to score. And I'm sure he cares about his goal tally and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure that is the case. But I just watch him, and he doesn't quite seem to have that. As I put it the other week, wants to score more than they want to take their next breath. That's the kind of striker that Rangers need. That's the kind of forward that wins you championships. And of course, there are tactical reasons. I'll accept why Rangers maybe aren't committing as many bodies forward, why people aren't maybe in the box as much. But I think you look at that screen grab from Sunday afternoon when Nadim Barami is ready to cross the ball late in the game at Easter Road, and there's not a single player in the box. There's no one making that run. What's the old adage? There's no one gambling. There's no one gambling to get themselves a goal. And I think if Naderi has that killer instinct, then that's all we need at Rangers. They need that someone that is just that poacher that can want to score more than anything else.
Josh, I know you want to have your say on this.
Yeah, Blair and I were having a debating this off air. We should have turned it into a podcast. We just speak too much. But I would love Rangers to be better on the ball. And watching them, I thought yesterday was a bad watch. I thought it was the worst that Rangers have been, probably under Danny Rule in general, definitely domestically. However, I just think there has to be a bit of realism that Danny Rule has inherited a team that won one league game in 8. That most of us were saying was the worst domestic team we'd seen in the top flight. Confidence absolutely on the floor. And there was nothing to fall back on, no shape, no defensive discipline, since they've achieved, 10 or 11 clean sheets in the league. And he said himself after the weekend that we've got back into the title race. I'm paraphrasing. We've got back into the title race with clean sheets and organisation. He changes his shape a lot, and he changes the off-ball structure a lot and the on-ball structure. And the reality of that is it means when players are on the ball, those relationships aren't there. And the time I think that's needed in training to make your team look fluid in the final third, the consistency of Gassama playing on the left wing and the central midfield being the same and the runs corresponding, is not there either. So I agree the Bayrami moment is really bad, but it's also, I think, a byproduct of a game that's very end-to-end, where I thought Rangers looked absolutely knackered. I think Rule got his team wrong because I think Moore should have started in that inside role, and I think Tavernier should have come on for Max Aarons. Hindsight, yes, but I think Tavernier has the composure to pick Diamandi out instead of Aarons flashing the ball across the box. But two moments stood out to me that depicted where Rangers are on the ball, Derek. One was, do you remember when Nico Raskin had the opportunity to cut the ball back to Bayrami, but he instead tried to chip the ball to the back post to Trumiti? And the second one is Max Aarons gets in behind in injury time and he flashes the ball across the face instead of just picking his head up and cutting the ball back. I think that is a sign of a team that is not refined, that hasn't had time to work on patterns in the final third, that hasn't had time to build relationships. And people will maybe rightly say in the comments, the professional footballers should be able to do that. Yes, but they're also playing against other professional footballers. And what gives you the edge is the coaching, is the time, is the consistency that I don't think we have seen really at all. I can't think of many fluid goals that Danny Rule's team have scored in transition. If this was happening this time next year, it would be big alarm bells for me. I think when you've not had a pre-season, it's really, really difficult. So I don't know. No Rangers strikers underperformed their expected goals because they've not had that many chances. Rangers have scored 21 open play goals in 24 games. I just wonder how that changes mid-season, Derek. I wonder how it changes without the training time. And when it's players changing position at every juncture. You know, Max Aarons is in like a left wing position in the final 20 minutes against Porto, and then he's on the right. I think these small things make a difference, and that has been massively overlooked when we discuss why Rangers aren't that good on the ball. I just don't think you can have both. You can't have a team that looks pretty solid, albeit they weren't on Sunday, but generally has looked pretty solid, doesn't give much away, and has a solidity, but has no real identity in the final third, or the opposite. I think asking for both after a coach inherits a team mid-season with little training time, I just think it's difficult to do.
Yeah, we've seen sort of European hangovers before with Rangers. I'm not too down about that result yesterday. I don't think this team's good enough to go unbeaten from now until they'll win every single game, should I say, between now and the end of the season. There are going to be bumps in the road. Probably fortunate to come away with a point at the end yesterday. Take the point, move on, as Daniel said yesterday. Just make sure that you win the next game, which becomes the biggest game, of course, with Kilmarnock coming to Ibrox on Wednesday. I wanted to get to a few points that are coming in. I love this. Binak Bear says, watching from my work, my shift is flying in. Thanks, lads. So not much productivity taking place at Binak Bear's place, that's for sure. But good to see you tuning in tonight, buddy. TSRFC 1997 kindly donates to the channel. Windows problem, you have the worst scouting department in Britain, an old rumour, and opponent and a player from an old coach. Terrible. Good stream. So yeah, well, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Potsy Photos very kindly donated 5 Rangers Review memberships, so thank you very much. Make sure you take those up. Your generosity is very welcome, Potsy. Thank you for that. And Gav MC 104 also kindly donated to the channel. It says Nadiri will give Asgard someone to create with. Asgard coming in for criticism after his performance yesterday. Blair, Johnny mentioned him on the show this morning, saying that he could he's the sort of player that gets managers the sack. Rangers need more from him in games like yesterday. It didn't really suit him. I said he's sort of playing at testimonial pace. Game just passes him by, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't quite go as far as those two sentiments, playing at testimonial pace, or indeed getting managers the sack. I don't think I'd quite go that far. But okay, yeah, he was poor yesterday. He was poor. I talked up Telo Asgard a bit before the game yesterday because I said that he's scored big goals for Rangers in a few games previously. He scored against Motherwell, I think it was. He scored against St Mirren, and he's popped up with moments, and I think he's used his physicality well in terms of being that sort of bigger number 10, if you will, that bigger attacking midfielder that it seems to suit Rangers just now because they're obviously not creating that many chances on the floor. They're not creating that many chances in the way that we would maybe conventionally like them to. They're more doing that through set pieces and more through balls into the box. So Asgard does help you out with that. But yesterday was a really poor performance from Telo Asgard. There's no getting away from it. It was a really frustrating performance. The thing that really stuck with me a lot, and I took this from my chat with Stephen Davis a few weeks ago, that he talked about when you're playing in the middle of the park for Rangers, whether it be a little bit further forward or a little bit further back, you need to know when to speed the game up and you need to know when to slow it down. And well, quite not at testimonial pace, Telo Asgard, it's almost if he's playing on 3/4 pace all the time. He wants 2 touches. He wants to take the ball. He never pops it off. He never takes it in and just gets it moving. He never changes the tempo in the final third. And then what does that lead to? Predictability. And when it was predictability is there, and that's the key word that I could say for Rangers' attack so far this season, is that so many defences know what they're going to do, and that in a sense is why they've found so much success with set pieces, because they've been getting creative with that and they've been getting interesting with that. And it helps. You've got the tallest man in the park most of the time in Emmanuel Fernandez to aim at, but also Scott Fry is coming up with little routines. He's coming up being a little bit different with what he's doing in terms of those dead ball situations. So that is maybe where Rangers are finding their edge. They're finding their creativity, because when you actually make them try and do it in open play, it doesn't seem as though the players have got the ability to dictate the game like that. So yeah, as far as what the future holds for Telo Asgard, I don't know. I think I don't think he's a starter in a league-winning team, if I'm being brutally honest.
But Josh, I know you've got feelings on Telo Asgard. I think he's capable of producing some good moments. We've seen that this season, but as Blair quite rightly points out there, he's not someone that would be looking to start every single game. Too many games seem to pass him by.
Not to start a fight with Johnny, which obviously
he's not even here yet.
I know. I just can't.
You see him backstage.
Yeah, but no, I just think in terms of, I didn't listen to the podcast this morning, so I'm taking your word for it. In terms of getting managers to sack, I thought he was really bad yesterday. Let me put that on the record. He also scores your winning goal against Motherwell, the opening goal against Aberdeen, where I thought he was good, and the opening goal against St Mirren. or the second goal against it. No, the opening goal against St Mirren. So he's played his part. I don't think it's as black and white like that situation where I think that's what Danny Rule was saying yesterday, that one performance like that won't make him go dark on everything. I think Asgard's issue is that he can't. Rangers as a team can't still set the tempo of a game with the ball. And I think if you just look at his season, he's come in for this big money move. He's been talked up a lot by Russell Martin with a lot of pressure put on him. He had those injury issues at the start. But if you go back to, and again, speaking to someone about the situation recently, Tel Asgard's pre-season was spent with him being told, keep the ball at all costs, slow possession, we're going to open teams up, don't rush it. And then suddenly a manager comes in October and says, see everything you got told in St George's Park for 2 weeks or a week. Just forget that and play forward at speed. I don't know who's going to be around you because it's going to change game to game. I don't know what the formation is going to be because it's going to change game to game. Again, I just think it's unrealistic to expect that he's brilliant every single game. So I think he was poor yesterday. I think a lot of times he slows the game down too much. But I don't think it's that black and white. And what Rule has to do is he has to manage things. And the reason Asgard is in there is because of those games I've mentioned, the set-piece goal against Aberdeen, the set-piece goal against St Mirren. Rangers are very close to scoring a set-piece goal yesterday with Nico Raskin when Grant Hanley kind of deflects it over the bar. They're very close to scoring a set-piece goal in the opening minutes against Tynecastle when Bojan Miovski is just offside from the Manny Fernandez header. This is what they're trying to do, but I just don't think you can expect then it to be you can't expect the whole picture. So I think we've got to just think a little bit more about like what the overall context is. Is that fair? While I'm saying I think he was really bad yesterday, and I think that Moore should have started.
It is and isn't. He's never really played at tempo. I've seen him a lot at Wigan. The feeling was there that what we're seeing unfold at Rangers. Never really watched him much at Luton Town. To be fair, he wasn't there a great deal, but it's not someone that is rapid, shall we say, and get you moving up the pitch. Johnny messaged me saying he's already got one manager they sacked this season, so there you go. That's a strength to his boat there. Adam gets in touch. Friend of the show, before you jump in there, Blair, says Asgard scoring from set pieces sometimes masks pretty poor performances, unlikely to get criticised when he's scored. So fair point from Adamski there. Batter in, Blair.
Yeah, maybe that's a little bit harsh, but I think that I do agree with that point that if he scores a goal, then you're unlikely to come off the park going, oh, he was terrible today. But I mean, he did score the goal that won the game. I think maybe it's a case of the Rangers fans were maybe misrepresented or Asgard was misrepresented to the Rangers fans when he first joined, if that makes sense. I think that maybe he came in and everyone thought he was going to be this number 10, this sort of link player, this nippy sort of player who could come in and link the midfield and the forwards. I remember the game at St Mirren earlier on in the season, and he started up front, if you remember that game. And it was quite early on in his Rangers career. And what I always remember thinking in the chat that day was everyone was so surprised about how tall he was. Everyone was so surprised about his physicality because it almost seemed like Rangers fans were expecting a different player to come in. And don't get me wrong, I myself, when Tello Asgard signed, I had visions of this sort of, this attacking player knitting together deep-lying midfielders and forwards and being able to carry the ball through the middle of the park and being able to shoot from distance. And I mean, apart from that goal he scored against Dundee United, the great goal, to be fair, although it maybe took a little bit of the deflection, I don't really, there's not a lot of moments you can hang on to from Tello Asgard. He's been good in certain games where he's taken Rangers over the line and helped them get that decisive goal. But for every one of those moments, he seems to have a performance where you look at him and go, he looks so far off the pace. Because you look at his performance against Celtic at Parkhead. That is a performance that a lot of Rangers players couldn't come back from. That is a performance that a lot of Rangers players would never get back in the team again. After.
Yeah, but what the Hampden one?
No,
see, be fair, he gets booked after 6 minutes. It's no sort of nullifies him. So I wouldn't go 2-footed on him for that.
And everyone has a nightmare in that first half. Like, everyone has a nightmare, don't they?
Yeah,
it's not. Was anyone above a 4?
Asgard's booked after 6 minutes, and that's his first Old Firm game after the game at Hampden. So you can imagine him thinking, "No, it sort of just nullifies him." But I get your point. Would that booking have made a difference? I think he would have been much more freer to exert himself on the game. But I get your point.
Yeah, it's a fair point, but I think that it's the kind of game where I would be looking for him to exert himself in it. And what sums up Tello Asgard for me, I think, is that free kick that he scores the other week against Annan is technically one of the best goals I've ever seen. It's an absolute beauty. Like, it's a magnificent free kick that most players would struggle to do on a football park. But he doesn't produce those moments when it really matters. He doesn't produce those moments of quality. In a game like yesterday, he looks as though he wants too long on the ball. He looks as though he wants 5 or 6 touches. And if he can't produce those moments when it really matters, then unfortunately, he's a bit of a luxury player that Rangers can't really afford.
Yeah, and he shouldn't have got booked, incidentally. Well, he should have got booked, but it was silly of him to hold out the player's jersey. I can't remember what player it was, but yeah. Anyway, we do digress. Lots of comments come in. A big thank you to Maggie McCrum, who's very kindly donated to the channel. Love this bit of insight into Ryan Naderi. The Jamie says, got a mate who makes the Frankfurters for the Rostov players. Says Naderi is the new Miroslav Klose. So there you go. High praise indeed. I'll take your word for it, Jamie. Do you like a Frankfurter, Joshua?
That's a loaded question at this time.
I'm gonna be careful and say no. I don't. Yeah,
German sausage is pretty good, Blair.
Yeah, absolutely. I will fully get on board that train if Big Ryan Naderi comes to Ibrox.
They need to start. I think they sell the hot dogs at Ibrox anyway, don't they? But yeah, get the Ryan Naderi Frankfurters, get them sold in the kiosks, please. Big thank you to Chris, who's kindly donated to the channel. Says Johnny's still eating his dinner. Get the big man on with Josh. Sorry, Blair.
I've not got the energy. Nah, I've not got the energy. We had one in the office today. We'll save it. Once a week. Once a week's fine. And I'd just like to point. I don't massively disagree with the point about Asgard or indeed Tremiti. I just sometimes think it's I struggle with the black and white nature of football. Football picking apart a football game, Derek.
Yeah.
So
listen, not all players. Yeah, we can't expect them to be like Tel Asgard to be George Alberts and what have you. Who social media was a thing back then. Even he would have come in for criticism back in Z-Day. So there you go. An interesting point I wanted to bring up just on that game at the weekend. Brian says, listening to Boydie earlier, he reckons we played the wrong team on Thursday, which led to the wrong team yesterday. Thoughts? See, this is the thing. European team, Daniel can only pick so many players, and of course, he never even had Danilo and Joe Rothwell available. If they were available for me, I would have been starting them against Porto. So there's only so much he could do midfield-wise. The new signings weren't registered with the European squad. So is that a fair comment, Joshua? I think certainly you mentioned some players that should have started yesterday. I think Mohamed Diamande should have started the game yesterday, incidentally. But did he get the team wrong on Thursday and then yesterday, Daniel?
I think Diamande should have started because he's been one of Rangers' best players. I thought he looked really good on the ball. He had that nice touch when he came on yesterday. And I don't think Dragwani had a bad game in his place, and he actually won the ball back quite a lot. And Raskin felt like the closest player to making a breakthrough. He plays that brilliant pass to Aarons late on before he fails to cut the ball back. But yeah, I do think Diamande probably should have started. My point, but I agree that I think the wrong team was picked because I thought that Mikey Moore, Rangers really lacked a player to carve open Hibs. So we've talked about how they've had issues in open play. We've talked about how they're kind of playing the percentages, being a bit of a set piece team. I think you were missing a Moore over an Asgard or a Gassama in there yesterday, and I think you saw when he came on in the second half, he looked pretty sharp, and I was surprised because he was also on the bench on Thursday night. My question back would be, Managerial did manage to load the players a lot. He made a lot of changes. He brought a lot of players off. He spoke about that post-match. He also had 4 16 and 17-year-olds on the bench. In a parallel universe, if they play and Rangers get beat 6-0 and they go into the Hibs game in a bad place, I think people question that. if Joe Rothwell plays and he gets injured, you can't, and you're paying his wages for the second half of the season, I think you question that as well. So again, rather than that necessarily being Rule's fault, I think that's more just the circumstance of his European team features the likes of Rothwell and Sterling, who'd been injured, and Danilo, who can't play. So his hands, as they have been for a lot of his tenure, are tied. But what I do think he got wrong is I didn't understand the Aarons over Tavernier, because yes, Tavernier thought he was really bad on Thursday, but it's a totally different game. And if someone's going to provide a moment, even imagine if Rangers got a penalty late on, or I just cannot unsee that moment with Max Aarons in the box. I just think it was James Tavernier. He has composure. So I do think he got that one wrong, but I don't think he had many options with his team on Thursday night.
Blair, I want to direct this at your good self, day in the life, just with the prospect of Ryan Naderi coming in. He says, are you playing two up front, lads, if this new striker is coming in? Do you think we'll see that? What does that mean? Do you think Daniel will continue with the sort of target man with the two players supporting acts on either side of him, or will we see a two up top, a Miovski, Nadiri, Chermiti combination?
That's an interesting one, because it'll be interesting to see what type of player Nadiri is, whether he is a player who likes to play round the back of a defender, whether he likes to come short and then pick the ball up, because obviously we know that Yusuf Chermiti, his game, whether we like it or not, is coming deeper and trying to win the ball and using his physicality to link the play up. So in a universe, I could see Chermiti and Nadiri playing together if they're not too similar a profile. I actually think that Danilo was the better of the partners for Chermiti and Miovski earlier in the season. They went through that period where Danilo was playing alongside Chermiti, and that was getting them a little bit of success. That kind of fell apart a bit at Hampden with the semi-final. But I remember a couple of games where that seemed to work a little bit. I wonder if there's maybe a little bit of scope to try and convert one of the wingers into a bit of a second striker, if that works. I wonder if, and I don't know if I'm way off here tactically, Josh, whether Andreas Skov Olsen could essentially be converted into a bit of a second striker if it calls for it, if he needs to be played a little bit further up the park, or indeed even Jedi Gisama coming in as a little bit of a second striker off the left alongside Ryan Nadiri, because I think that having the two big men up front, it doesn't really solve your issue of Rangers not making any chances for them. I think that if you're going to play like that, then you need to get both fullbacks pretty high up the park and be getting crosses in all day. So yeah, it'll really depend on what kind of player Ryan Nadiri is. If Rangers, again, hypothetically, if Rangers had went and signed the Tawanda Maswanise, absolutely. There's a two up front every day of the week. But I don't think they maybe have that complementary striker, although I caveat that by saying I'm not entirely sure how Nadiri will fit in here, what kind of player he is. But if he is the sort of profile that his physical attributes suggest, then I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe one of the wingers converted into a little bit of a second striker.
Thoughts on that, Joshua?
If you looked at the way Gassama and Skov Olsen played yesterday, they didn't really play by the touchline, but that's, I think, circumstantial because you're playing a back five, so you want to stretch out the wing backs and kind of create that box midfield in the middle. But that's also how Rule wants to play, and something we've picked up on in conversations, and you could, common sense, truthfully, could tell you, he's a manager from the Red Bull school, really, isn't he? He wants to play vertical football. He wants his wingers to be more inside forward than touchline huggers. But there's been a lot of adaptability and a lot of, as we've covered at length, a lot of pivoting from game to game in terms of the approach. I don't think that suited Gassama yesterday. I thought he looked a little bit lost in the middle of the pitch. I think he's more comfortable when he's isolated by the touchline and he's in a familiar surrounding. Whereas yesterday, when he picked the ball up in the middle, there's quite a few times where passes were short, or he maybe just didn't look like he was that comfortable. Whereas I think Mikey Moore is more comfortable in that left-hand position. Rangers are going to get into a position after the first 2 weeks of February where they only play one game a week until the final week of the season, which is when was the last time they did that? I think
Could be a good thing.
I think it could, and I don't think they've actually had that, because the last time they got knocked out of the European competition in the group stage was Champions League season, but that was a condensed season because of the World Cup. So you're going back to pre-Steven Gerrard for that. So that could be a benefit. That gives you freshness. That gives you the ability to make 5 substitutes and be stronger. It gives you 2 players in every single position. You know, we reported on Wednesday last week that there'd been that inquiry from Feyenoord, or approach from Feyenoord for Oliver Antman, but Rangers didn't want to do that deal now. They have him and Skov Olsen. They have Bayrami and Asgard. They have Moore and Gassama behind the striker. Have any of them done it consistently enough? No. I think that point goes for Mikey Moore as well, was quite self-critical when we spoke to him in the mix zone last week about his own about his own individual output. But the big point for me is I think you will see a benefit when you've got players playing in similar positions week after week with a little bit more certainty. That's when I think you start to see better solutions in the final third. But we're going to speak about that on the Tactics Show this week with Adamski, I believe, Blair. So we'll see. We'll see if we can come to an agreement around the round table, our own round table at Rangers Review HQ.
It's a welcomable show. The comments are really positive from that, so I keep it up. This comment from Jay. Any ideas about the fee for Rothwell? Incidentally, Rangers' statement on the website is brief to say the least. It says Rangers can today confirm Joe Rothwell has joined Sheffield United on a permanent deal for an undisclosed fee. The midfielder made the move to the Gers in the summer of 2025, making 20 appearances in total, but will now make the switch to the English Championship side. He departs with the best wishes of everyone at Rangers. So there you go, back down south to Sheffield United, working with Chris Wilder. I think he'll do reasonably well down there with Sheffield United. It's just a move that never worked out for the player or the club. A topic on the show this morning, Blair, was Finlay Curtis. I said Rangers could have done with bringing him on yesterday, but that is not going to be the case now, of course. He's on loan at Kilmarnock. I personally would have kept him around. I think he could have contributed, and I get the argument. It's better for him playing games regularly for Kilmarnock coming back next summer. Is that better for Rangers at this point when they need someone that's direct and looking for someone to have a go, something a bit different? I'm not too sure it's the wisest of moves, sending him out on loan.
I take your point, Derek, because I can completely understand why people were looking yesterday at Nadim Bayrami playing down the right, and you're thinking, why have Rangers sent a perfectly good right winger who is full of energy, has literally crossed an assist 2 nights earlier, and why have they sent him away to somewhere else when he could be a good option for Rangers off the bench? So I get that, I understand that, and it's hard to argue against that, but you also can't be reactionary all the time. You can't always think about the idea of, if Rangers win that game yesterday 1-0, no one's talking about Finlay Curtis. It's only because Rangers drop points that Finlay Curtis is yet another sort of a marker point to go, if only we'd Finlay Curtis. This is no harm to Finlay Curtis. I think he has a potential to have a really good Rangers career, but I don't think Finlay Curtis is going to be the make or break if Rangers win this title. Let's put it that way. And I think that him going out, if you think long-term strategy, Finlay Curtis going out and playing the best part of a season, half a season with Kilmarnock and getting games under his belt, learning under Neil McCann, who of course was a great winger for Rangers. And if you're looking for anybody over the past 20 years to give Finlay Curtis pointers in his craft, I think you couldn't look any further than Neil McCann. I think he's maybe the best possible person to translate to him what it means to play for Rangers. And if he gets a good 6 months under his belt, I think he'll come back as a really good player, and I think he's got every chance of being a Rangers player in the future. But yeah, like I said, I don't think you can be that reactionary and just think, imagine we have had Finlay Curtis in the team, it would have been different. I think that you need to maybe look a little bit broader, and obviously the club are making these decisions, Danny Röhl's making these decisions. I was actually a bit more surprised that we didn't maybe throw on Oliver Antman yesterday. Now, I know he's not played a lot of football. I know he's coming back to fitness, but I thought that if you're going to get people out wide and you're going to maybe use that outlet, why not throw Oliver Antman in there? If he's on the bench, then you have to think they probably rates him to go and do something. So I was maybe a little bit more surprised about that, but I think it's a case of, like, Finlay Curtis is away now. Let's not try and make him into this this match-winning player that he maybe wasn't when he was here.
Joshua, your thoughts on Finlay Curtis? I think I'd have kept him around. That's my personal opinion. I know that there's many others that would have done. Lots of differing views in the comments, shall we say? But your thoughts on that? Are you getting a text about signing, Joshua?
I'm
Spill the beans.
No, I'm in the middle of something. I'll hopefully have something firmed up when I'm off here in 5 minutes.
Oh, it's so exciting.
I'm too tired to multitask. I was just going to make a quick point. I think less exciting for people. Bayrami comes on over Anton because look at where he's playing. He's not playing as a winger. He's playing as that inside forward. That's probably how Rule wants to play, more with the fullback wide and then the kind of attacking player in the channel. And I think that's why he comes on over Anton. And I think Curtis needs to play. Again, if you've only got 1 game a week, how often is he going to play? That's been a 2-game-a-week fixture list for a little while. However, I see your point of view, Derek, because what Curtis has is the intangible abilities to run beyond and stretch the play. Too many Rangers players coming to feet yesterday. Everyone wants the ball to feet instead of spinning behind until Mikey Moore comes on. And he's also has, again, the intangible quality of he has a goal threat. He's maybe not someone who beats his man by the touchline loads, but he is in and around the goals. So I think we'll leave it at that. We'll hand over to you and Johnny. And
I'll introduce him, the big introduction in a little minute, but we'll bid you farewell. Maybe we'll bring Chris in the next hour at some point as well, but big ciao for now. You staying on, Blair?
I've only done my 40 minutes, so I'll stay on for a little bit longer.
You were skiving for a bit. You've got time. You've got time to pay back, so you can stay on for now. And now seems a good time to introduce.
Here's Johnny.
And there he is, as if by magic.
One of my favourite films as well. Fantastic. I was actually thinking if I was going to have a WWE music entrance, I would want the Big Show. That's what I would want, the Big Show. Yeah. But here's Johnny's pretty good. Not quite as good as Stone Cold. Not quite as cool as that.
Yeah, Stone Cold, that was absolutely sensational. One of the moments of the Rangers Review podcast, that's for sure. Blair, if you had to choose a wrestling theme to come into the show, what would it be?
Can't believe I'm going to out myself here. I never watched wrestling growing up as a kid. I have never ever. This is where I get thrown off the Rangers Review for good, because I was never a wrestling fan growing up. So all your wrestling references are lost on me, I'm afraid.
Nah, dearie me. What are we going to do about that?
Youngsters nowadays, Gen Z and all that, Derek. What are they like?
Dreadful. Back in the 90s was a heyday. I've still got all the figures up in the loft somewhere. The Macho Man was my hero growing up. That and the Ultimate Warrior was a big fan of him. But those were the days when only one person in your street had Sky and had to tape WrestleMania for you, and then you watched it in your house. Those were the days, as they say. But there you go. Hulk Hogan as well, of course, who's sadly missed, but there you go. Right, Johnny, you're welcome to the show. What do you make of the transfer biz? Of course, we discussed the possibility of movement when we were on the show earlier on in the briefing. There's obviously been a development with regards to Ryan Naderi. Rangers get that one over the line. Good business for you. A lot of money's been spent on this boy.
A lot of money, Derek. And the truth is, I have no idea whether or not this will be good business. What I would say is, he's another big lad, isn't he? 6'4".
Yep.
So I think that the club are clearly angling to play in a certain way. They're looking for a target man. They're looking for a guy to bring in others into play. Like I think Chermiti is capable of doing at times. But the thing about Ryan Naderi is he looks like, from his goal scoring record over there in Germany, yes, it is the third tier, but you know, the third tier in Germany is not half bad compared to Scotland, I would imagine. And in the third tier, he's got a decent goal scoring record. So, listen, he's young, he's big, he's strong. We can see from all the transfer talk around the country today, whether it's in England or if it's up here, players who are physically strong, who are powerful, who are tall, they are going for big bucks at the moment. There has been a real shift and a change in that regard. You talked about Adam earlier, who came up in one of his comments. He had a good tweet earlier on, and he was highlighting this fact. There is no doubt that as football goes through this cyclical change from the tippy-tappy football to back to the kind of get it into the mixer, get it into the box, set play is really important, crossing's really important, big strikers holding the ball up, then these guys are going to go for a big chunk of change. So if Ryan Naderi can come in and be a goal scorer and do the physical parts, Rangers are going to win a watch. They're going to make a lot of money on this guy. But as we know, you need more than just being a good player to succeed at Rangers. You need the mentality alongside the technical quality. So that's the big question. Will he have the mentality to make it at a big football club? You talked about Hansa Rostock, Derek. They are one of the great traditional names in German football, but they've fallen on hard times in recent years. They're not having quite the time of it that they did back in the 50s and the 60s. So let's see what he can do when he comes to a really, really big football club and the pressure's on. But if they've got this transfer right, Derek, if they've got it right, this could be the transfer that ultimately takes Rangers to the title this year. It could be, because if you get a striker who's going to score you 15 goals between now and the end of the season, Rangers have got a real chance.
Yeah, they absolutely need that. That's for sure. Just staying with the wrestling theme, lots of wrestling comments coming in. Big George says, Johnny is the double of Papa Shango. There you go. Remember Papa Shango back in the day?
I do remember Papa Shango. Yes,
yeah,
big ugly guy. Yep. Not sure I look too much like him, but I'll take it.
He gave me nightmares, that guy. But yeah, very, very scary. He came into the ring with a skull, I'm sure, and magic.
Derek, we're talking about WWE memories and nightmares. Do you remember when the Macho Man, who you talked about earlier, was bitten by the King Cobra of Jake?
Yes, Jake the Snake.
Anyone who was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 at that point, that was literally the most disturbing thing they ever saw. And they 100% thought that was real.
Yeah.
Everyone under 40 who's watching this will be scratching their heads wondering what the hell we're talking about. But
Blair's Googling as we speak. Blair's checking it on YouTube.
I'm trying to find footage of what you're talking about. I'm also trying to look up who I'm getting called in the comments, whether it's a compliment or not.
Well, some are agreeing with you, Blair, so there you go. Big thank you to Peter, who's kindly donated to the channel. Says, I will play 4-3-1-2 with the players that we've got. So that's the formation that he would go with. Thank you for your kind donation, Peter. David McFarlane gets back in touch. Thank you for your donation, David. I know this is a bad word to you, Derek, but come next season, what can we expect rules philosophy to be? Yes, people were taking issue with me having an issue with the word philosophy, and for me, it's overused in football. I'm sick of hearing it, but there you go. Johnny, I'll come to you on that one. Danny Rule, listen, I think you'll wouldn't surprise me if he lifts silverware come the end of the season, that there might be one or two clubs looking to prize him away from Ibrox. But what have you made of Danny Rule so far? I've got to say, personally, I've been very impressed by him. He's turned around the club. Let's be honest, it was an utter shambles when he came in. Fractured fan base. He's united the fans. He's got the team back into a title race, so he has worked wonders. But how good is this guy? What can he go on to achieve at Rangers, do you reckon?
I think he's very good. He's certainly done a very, very good job so far. You just can't really explain to people who don't know Rangers just how much of a nightmare he inherited. You know, quite often I'll speak to friends who are based abroad, who don't follow Scottish football as closely as obviously we do, anything like it, and they'll say, you know, how are Rangers doing? You have to explain to them exactly what sort of a debacle Danny Rule took over. So I've been really, really impressed with him. I think, like most other people, thought of the candidates that were available, I preferred the look of Kevin Muscat or Steven Gerrard, and probably Steven Gerrard, if I'm being honest, to come back. But Danny Rule's proved himself to be a kind of quintessential modern coach in that he's been able to take this group of players and make them better. But you know what, Derek? I'm always going to show a little bit of reluctance to go too all in on a manager after what happened with Philippe Clement, because we saw an incredible impact over 6 months at this football club not too long ago, and it all blew up so spectacularly and so decisively that I think you've got to be careful. And Danny Rule's got big challenges ahead. But so far, I think he's made a very, very good showing of not very much to make that showing. And ultimately, Rangers have given him some of his own players in this window. I think they've spent a reasonable amount of money, that's for sure. You certainly can't deny that Andrew Kavanagh has put his money where his mouth is more generally in terms of this football club. But the big test will come in the weeks and months ahead. And if Rangers don't finish first, there'll be an inquest, because there was a real opportunity because of Danny Rowe's good work.
Yeah.
And if they were to come second, then it's a disaster. And third, that would be a nightmare first season for everyone involved with the American ownership, etc., etc. So, listen, I think we all think that Rangers have got a real chance. There will be a little bit of luck required along the way. There'll need to be a little bit of a rub of the green along the way, and they'll be requiring a couple of these 4 January signings to really, really smash it. And I feel that quality has been brought in, but now we have to test not just the quality, but the quality of the men. Can they stand up to the pressure? And that's going to be the big one.
I've got some breaking news, guys. Ryan Naderi is at the Rangers training centre as we speak. So that move is edging ever closer to becoming a Rangers player before the window shuts in just under 48 minutes' time. Exciting stuff. Let's hope it gets unveiled and announced before we come off air. So Rangers media team, stop tuning into the show and get on with the pictures and what have you. Get them sat down. Get him saying why he's always followed Rangers since he was a young kid, why George Alberts is his hero. Let's get a move on with things. Lots of comments coming in. Stephen's not a fan of the chat. Thank you for your donation, Stephen. Derek's love for a German sausage, and now Johnny's on about Jake the Snake. Shows went off the radar. And love this. Big George says Blair DiBiase, the $20 man. Blair will have no idea what we're talking about there.
I see it though. I definitely see it.
Yeah. And
I'm going to assume it's
Blair's looking for a new job.
Just Google Ted DiBiase.
Yeah,
legend. $1 million man.
Yeah, absolute legend. But anyway, Blair, what have you made of Danny Rule?
Yeah, Danny Rule has done a fantastic job so far, all things considered. I think that I remember sitting on this podcast many a time, Derek, consoling you in the morning when you were telling me that this season was finished, this season was over in October, and nothing was going to happen. And Danny Rule has came in and he's reignited that faith. He's got everyone believing again that Rangers can actually get success come May. And I think that let's not forget the feeling towards Danny Rule before he came into this job. There was a lot of people who were just waiting to be convinced or waiting to be proved right that he wasn't the right man for this job. There was a lot of people that were going, this guy, he's coming in from Sheffield Wednesday. We wanted Steven Gerrard, we wanted Kevin Muscat, these big names that were getting linked to it, and that saga that unfurled trying to get a manager over the line, and then eventually Danny Rule came in, and there was a lot of people that were like, okay, this guy's going to have to convince me. And really from day one he's managed to do that. Even on his unveiling day, he was a little bit of a sideshow. I remember being at that press conference and it was Andrew Kavanagh flanked either side by Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell. Danny Rule was ushered in for a pre-press conference, and then he was ushered back out, and really all the questions that day were directed towards Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell. So he came in a little bit just under the radar, and I think that has maybe summed up his entire Rangers tenure. He's just been under the radar, just ticking along and getting his job done. And I think he's set himself such a high bar with the start that he's had in the first few months in the job that now people are starting to expect success this year, which is, I would say, unrealistic. I think at the start of the season, people thought it was unrealistic, but it's not unrealistic anymore now that we've seen what Danny Rule can do with this team. There are obvious limitations. We know this. We've seen it on Sunday. But he's managed to get a tune out of them, and he's managed to win any which way possible, and that's what Rangers needed. Rangers needed someone to bring that steel back, bring that grit back, and just really bring that belief back. And I tend to agree with Johnny. Ryan Naderi is such an unknown quantity that he could be another Danny Rule. He could be fantastic. He could come in and everyone thinks, who is this guy? We don't know what we're going to get. And it turns out he's actually just the player that Rangers needed. And I meant to say earlier on, I don't really buy into this sort of, it's the German third division. Why are we shopping there? The German third division, I'm sure, has got some very good teams in it. I'm sure that, like I said, they're all professional. And you look at some of the players that have really impressed in this division so far this year. You look at Claudio Braga, came in from the Norwegian second division. You look at Alexandros Kizaridis, he came from Slovakia. These are not high-profile elite leagues. These are players that have been plucked out of, I would say nowhere, but near enough nowhere to come in and absolutely light up the Scottish Premier League this year. So if Naderi comes in and he finds the net pretty quickly, and he is going to have to do that, that's going to be what he's judged by. I don't want another striker that's going to come in and is going to link up play and is going to be a handful and is going to be physical. Rangers need someone to put the ball in the back of the net. That's simple as that. And if the big man can do that from day one, then Rangers might be on with a winner. Absolutely. He will be judged on goals, as all good strikers should be, in my opinion.
Yes, certainly. Brian says, lads, I'm 7 hours behind in Calgary. I'm at work. What's been going on? So just an update for you, Brian. Ryan Naderi edging closer to becoming a Rangers player this window, not in the summer, getting them in and getting them signed before the deadline and the window slams shut. George Rothwell has departed for Sheffield United on a permanent deal. Danilo will be set to move back to the Netherlands to sign for NEC Nijmegen. I think that's pretty much it. We had Chris give us an update on Clinton Enciala earlier, with Westerlo hoping to take him on loan with that option to buy at the end of it for £1 million. So that is where we are at this point in time. We're going to get Chris back on shortly. I notice he's backstage and he's on his phone, which is encouraging. I wonder who's on the phone too. Let's hope it's something exciting. But he's just getting himself ready and prepped, getting the makeup on. So we'll bring him on shortly. But first of all, the J-Man gets in touch and he's kindly donated to the channel. He says, part 1 done this window for me, but what are the priorities come this summer? Loving the stream, gents. Well, I think that'll be determined on whether Rangers win the league and where they are. Now, I think I've said before, I think they need a new right back. Probably might look to bring in certainly 2 centre backs probably in the summertime. Probably another left back because Jaden Magoma will be going back to his parent club. Then you're probably looking at maybe a goalkeeper in the summer. That's for another day. But clubs always look probably 2-3 windows ahead, Johnny. Am I right? I think defensively, Rangers need to sort that out in the summer. For me, look at the amount of loan players that are in at the moment. Tav, of course, out of contract. Sterling has had injury problems ever since he's arrived. Max Aarons will be going back. So there's obviously glaring holes in that defence that need sorted come the summertime.
Yes, Derek, but in terms of the overall situation at the club, I'm looking at this season and saying Rangers have got the best defensive record in the league. Now,
Yep.
I agree that there needs to be additional quality added. Don't get me wrong for a second. I'd love to see a really dominant, experienced centre half that could play alongside, for example, Fernandes and bring the best out of him and develop him through games. But for me, the absolute number one thing is middle to front. 80% of this league is breaking down low blocks. So Rangers need a plethora of players in the number 10 position, in the wide left position, in the wide right position, who could do different things and allow a manager like Danny Rule, who's got this incredible tactical toolkit that we've seen so far. He can make changes and during games. I would like to see him have a lot more options so he can plug in and play different styles to get the best out of the team for different kinds of games. This is the major problem of any Rangers manager. It's very, very different going to play Livingston at Ibrox, and then the next day, 3 days later, you've got a game in the Champions League. It's so different. And then the next game is at Easter Road. And then, it keeps changing like that. And I think you always look at the great Walter Smith team of the 90s, Derek, right? And apart from that incredible run in 92-93 in the Champions League, where the team was really, really gritty. He kind of put a real emphasis on. It wasn't like tactically complicated. He just tried to get really, really good players and difference makers in the final third. And you looked at players like Gascoigne, Elijah, and McCoist, and all the others that were there at the time, and they just got over the line just through having that level of quality in the final third. They could win games that they weren't playing well in, and I think Rangers need a little bit of that. They need to less be so focused on like pretty patterns and the structure of it, because I think if you're obsessed with the structure, you come into difficulties when you go up against the change, because you build this team against in training to break down a low block, and then you come up against a Champions League team, or you come up against Celtic, and all that work kind of forget all that and let's go back to basics. It's not that easy to do. So I think you have to have players that can adapt to the general idea of changing more often, and it to be a fluid system and a fluid idea. And I think that's why Danny Rule has been successful so far. He doesn't have a fixed philosophy. He's a guy that says, I'm going to change this, I'm going to tweak this as I go along. He's had back four, he's had a back five. And I think that's what you need at Rangers. You need a manager that's not an ideologue that can say, look, at this club, you just need to win. So I'm going to do everything I can just to win.
Exactly. Here. Colin Bennett, thank you very much for the donation. Sir, if you want to stick your comment in, then please do. I think there's a comment that came in. Rangers easy, okay. Let Blair get to his scratcher. The boys had a long shift. He certainly has had a long shift. So I think now is the time to say farewell to Blair. Thank you, Blair, for
thank you for your service, Blair.
It's been a pleasure. Just on behalf of my colleague, Joshua Barry, I know he's screaming at the TV at your analysis that Rangers should just get better players on the opposition, Johnny. And that's tactically all we need.
Get better players, and that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
That's a pod for a different day. But I will make way for the man everybody is waiting to hear from this evening, Chris Jack, with, I'm sure, some sort of update. But for now, gentlemen, I will bid you farewell.
Goodbye for now. Are we playing the theme tune again? Getting them in?
I think we need to, Derek.
As I live and breathe. How goes it? Did you enjoy your break?
I was hoping you're going to mix it up second time around. I'm just disappointed. I thought you might have something else lined up for me, but I am back. What's been happening while I've been away? Have we signed him yet?
That's your job. What have you been doing? Going for a disco nap or what have you? But of course, the big development was Ryan Naderi at the Rangers training centre. Are we expecting that one to be done, Chris?
I've been putting the youngest member of the Jack family to bed about 2 hours after she should have been in bed. So that's been my task for the last hour or so, but we managed to get it done. So that job has been done. The next job is to get Ryan Naderi over the line. As you say, he is at the training ground. We're now in the lap of the Rangers media team and the transfer window gods. So it's just an announcement that we're waiting on. So hopefully not too much. Hopefully not too much longer, and that will be it in terms of Rangers incomings for this January transfer window.
Well, that was a bit of a damp squib, even. I hope you're going to bring us an extra special player, maybe that might be waiting in the wings. But I think, Chris, when think over the piece, decent business. Of course, we'll need to wait and see. We've not seen Tua Romans yet, of course. I wonder if we'll see him in action on Wednesday. I think certainly the weekend is an ample opportunity, I think, to play him. But probably on the face of it, money has been spent in this window. Money had to be spent in this window. Is this a Rangers squad, you reckon, that can win the title?
How long have you been waiting to play that boo sound? You've had that one lined up in the can for a while as well, haven't you? So thankfully I've not given you too many opportunities to use it over the course of this window. In general, I think if you look back at the month, I think it's been a good 4 weeks for Rangers. They have moved on a lot of players who were not contributing, who were just drains on the bottom line, who were drains on the squad, and who had to move on for those football and financial reasons. So I think they've done some good business in that regard. In terms of the incomings, we said right at the very start they needed a left back for competition, they needed another body in midfield, they needed an option in the final third that was going to be a creative influence, and they needed a goal scorer. Now, time will tell how effective those 4 players are, but they have addressed the 4 main failings within the squad. I think a lot of it, this might be a point that you boys touched on earlier on, I think a lot of it is down to perception now. See if Andrew Skov-Olsen had signed this morning, or he had been driving into the training ground just now, I think people would have been saying, "Oh, that's a really good bit of business. Rangers have ended the window on a high. They've spent a bit of money. They've committed to a really high-profile player there." Because he was signed a fortnight ago, and we've seen him a couple of times, and he's perhaps not made the start that people expected. It's a bit, well, that's great. You've went and you've signed a 40-cap Danish internationalist, and you've committed £9 million or so to him. But what else are you going to do? What's next? Why have you not gone bigger? Why have you not gone again? This is a squad that's had thick end of £50 million spent on it. I think we can all debate how that £50 million has been spent, whether it is true value for money. We can debate whether it's good enough to actually go and win this league or not. What you can't debate is the backing that Russell Martin, firstly, and now Danny Rule has had. The players that they wanted in the door, a lot of money has been spent to assemble this squad and to then tweak it over the last month. So I think you have to give Andrew Kavanagh and the board and the investors and the exec team and the recruitment team, they've done their bit. It's now up to the managers and the players to go and do their bit. Do they have enough to go and win the league? I think they do. Time will tell. They'll come back to us once they've played Hearts in a couple of weeks and they've played Celtic a couple of weeks after that. That's going to be the true test of it. But I think Rangers, they exit this window in a stronger position than they entered it. That's the ambition for every window. Now it's up to the people that really matter to go and do the business on the park.
Yep, absolutely. Big thank you to Stephen, who's kindly donated to the channel again. Thank you, Stephen. He says, Negri, Lovenclans, Morelos, Cholak all came from nowhere and all scored goals. Even Gaza was a bolt out the blue. All scored goals for fun. Seen Morelos was playing against Messi the other day there. I posted a picture. Give me Alfredo over Messi any day of the week. There you go. And a comment here, Highland Bear 986. Thank you for your donation, sir. It says, forget about the transfer window closing. The night viewing is comparable to the Royal Rumble of Rangers journals. Excellent viewing. Let's hope we kick on. Well, thank you very much for your kind words and your donation as well. And I love this. Stephen says as well, it's all okay, boys. We've still got Matondo. Matondo, will he be a Rangers player tomorrow, Chris?
Before I answer that, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to steal a part of your job just because I quite like that one. I had a quick flick through the comments there, and I like that one, so I'll give that one a bit of a.
Did you watch the wrestling growing up, Chris?
I do.
You know, like you were a wrestling fan when you're younger.
I spoke to Josh before I came back on, and he was thoroughly unimpressed with your wrestling chat. And I fear that if I indulge you boys any more in it, I'm going to be scolded. So, the short answer is yes, but we can save that for a conversation of another time because I don't think there's been enough XG chat for Josh's liking over the last 90 minutes, as far as I can tell. Well, the question was on Rabbi Matondo, wasn't it?
Yeah, where were we? Yeah, Rabbi Matondo.
I have just had a text to say he could be on the go, but that's not been confirmed, and that's nothing that we're going to go to. Nothing that I'm going to go too strong on. So we are asking the question on Matondo, but if it has happened, it's not something that we've heard over the course of the day. I think it's been obvious where our focus has been in terms of phone calls and WhatsApps and emails and all the rest of it. It's been very much the one incoming that looks like getting over the line, the one in Cameron Archer that will not get over the line, and worse than chasing the Joe Rodwell return to the Championship as well. So we've not really been focusing on Rabbi Matondo. A lot of people haven't been focusing on Rabbi Matondo for some time. So we have asked the question, and if there's anything over the next half hour, then we'll bring it to you.
The thing about
Just,
Matondo is ultimately he's on a big salary. I'm led to believe
Very
from the
much so.
time I was told at the time it was over £30,000 a week. So it's a significant wage for someone who's not played a lot of football in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Rabi is a good player on his day, I think, but he seldom has those days because he's often injured. And then when he is fit, I think he's a guy that's mercurial, isn't he? We know that when he's given the opportunity, he is capable of producing a big moment, as we saw with that last-minute winner against Celtic. Always remember that terrific shot, but it's been a pretty disastrous deal for Rangers that over the course of the numerous years that he's been at the club. Probably best part of £6 million or whatever on wages over that period of time at least. So you look at his contract being up at the end of the year, and maybe there'll be some sort of agreement that Matondo maybe he wants to go and get another club and start his career on, and maybe there'll be some kind of agreement for him to do that and depart so he can go and find someone on a free transfer. But I suppose time will tell on that.
Yeah, he's been a colossal waste of money is what he has been. A real disastrous signing. Nearly 5,700 of you still on, and a big thank you to each and every one of you, incidentally, for your interaction with the show tonight. It's very much appreciated, folks. Remember, if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. It means if you want to comment, you have to be a subscriber anyway, so it makes sense. And if you enjoy tonight's show, I see we've got some thumbs up emojis, love heart emojis, and some laughing emojis. 2 laughing emojis. So there you go, from a Scott Kennedy and a Scott MacArthur, who are laughing their little faces off at watching us tonight. So thank you for that, guys. Remember, we've also got that introductory offer on the website. We've had a tremendous live blog on there all day long with regards to Rangers' pursuit to players and players heading out the door. rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe to sign up. £4 for 4 months. So if you haven't signed up to the website, go and do that, and make sure you download the app as well, folks. That is a way to consume your Rangers review content, whether it be on Apple or Android. Just taking a look at transfers elsewhere. See that Scott Wright is back in Scotland. Hampden Scott Wright, of course, is back in Scotland. He signed for Dundee on loan from Birmingham City for the remainder of the season. Been pretty much a bit part player down there at the Blues. He's been injured for quite a considerable period of time as well, and has been struggling to force his way into their team. So I think that's a decent old signing for Dundee. Chris, would you say?
That was a surprising one. There wasn't a lot of chat about that earlier on. First I saw it was when Dundee actually announced it. So that's a deal that's been very well kept under wraps by the club. I don't think he was a Rangers player, but he should be more than good enough to go in and make an impact at Dundee. He put Stephen Presley down as one of the surprise packages of the season.
Well, I did say he would do well there. I knew he would do. He's a good coach, and he's someone that's just a bit different, of course. And he's often, people have a go at him sometimes, but he's shown that he's got something about him for me, doing a reasonably good job at Dundee. I do enjoy hearing his views on the game. But
they played well against Rangers,
No.
They did. They went man for man, and they took that game to quite late on before it was actually comfortable. I know that people look at the 3-0 and think, oh, it was just an easy game for Rangers. But, it was 1-0. I think the second goal went in the 89th minute or something like that. And I never felt that was a fully comfortable game, and that was tactically quite clever. So I think Scott Wright is an excellent signing for them. Got to be honest. I think he will add quite a lot. He's been there before. He's played at Dundee before. So he knows what the club's all about, and I would imagine that he'll do well, and that Dundee will see the benefit of having a guy with that experience. Sometimes it's easy to forget that in that great team that got to the Europa League final, Scott Wright was a mainstay and played in the final, of course, against Eintracht Frankfurt.
Yep.
So he was a guy that while I don't think Mate was good enough to make it at Rangers overall, he certainly put in a shift and always kind of felt like he would work hard for the team and track back and do the dirty stuff if he had to, as well as give you the occasional spark in the domestic stuff. But there's no doubt that he's not a player. I don't think that would be at the level of ever returning to Ibrox. But you wish him well.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. Let's hope we can do a bit of damage to Rangers' rivals. And just looking at their transfer business, I mean, Hearts, don't think they brought anyone in on deadline day. They've allowed James Wilson to go to Tottenham on loan until the end of the season. That includes an option to buy. It'd be more to do with Spurs' development side, I think, more than anything else. That will go down there and play for them. Celtic brought in a chap, Junior Adamu, on loan. Austrian player they brought in. Who they brought him in from? At Freiburg on loan for the remainder of the season. But they're certainly looking across the city. Johnny, you don't look and go, well, they've brought in a real game changer there, really, do you?
It's important. I mean, again, you know, when we were kids growing up, Derek, in the 90s and 2000s,
you knew a lot more.
Would bring in players that you'd heard of, that you'd seen at World Cups, that had an international reputation. And now what's happening, unless you're a real stato, there's a lot of the guys that are coming in that you just don't know who they are. So I feel like it's always dangerous to get carried away without actually seeing them on the pitch. I've read mixed things about all these guys that Celtic have been targeting, but I have to say, just aside from Celtic, I don't know a lot about the guys that they've actually brought in. Nothing jumps out as being particularly impressive, but that might be completely wrong because ultimately, some of us sort of looked at Kyogo and said, the guy from Japanese league, what will he do? And then he ended up scoring goal after goal against Rangers, even though he did have an impressive record, to be fair, in the J-League. But I think Hearts have signed well. The left back they brought in, I think, showed up well in the game so far in the Premiership.
Leonard
and Rogers Mato, the striker they brought in. I've watched quite a bit of footage of him. He looks like an absolute live wire, so quick, and got an eye for goal as well. And then Mark Leonard, we've already seen that he's a capable Scottish midfield player who went down south at a young age and has learned a lot about being a good pro. And I think Hearts have hardly looked diminished from having lost two terrific players in Beningame and Cammy Devlin. So that tells you about the impact that Leonard's had already in the short period of time he's been in the building. So this is kind of the problem with going up against Jamestown and what Tony Bloom has brought to the table with Hearts. You feel like they're not going to make too many missteps in the transfer market. And when they bring a player in, I think you've got a pretty good chance that they'll succeed based on all the data that they've got and the way that they use that data. We've seen it time and time again at Brighton. We've seen it time and time again at USG. And unfortunately, I think we're seeing it time and time again at Hearts from a Rangers point of view. And that's what's going to make the difference, I think, in the years ahead. And Rangers and Celtic both are going to have to find a way to narrow that advantage that Hearts have in the transfer market, because one of the big things about Jamestown, not that many people know this because it's quite a detailed kind of story about Hearts, and people maybe don't want to go into the core detail of it because it's too much. But one of the things that Jamestown do is every single player in world football who's played over a certain amount of minutes has got a rating. So like out of 100. So every single player. So everyone at Rangers, they'll have Nico Raskin at 75, and they'll have Manuel Fernandez at 72, and it's a bit like FIFA. That's what they have. And from Hearts' point of view, I think they see it as we just need to keep on improving that number all the time. And eventually, the overall squad number, if we keep getting it higher and higher, filling in players with higher and higher numbers, will get better to the point that we'll win the league. And I think if Hearts every season are able to bring in 5 players and 4 of them are big hits, I don't think Rangers and Celtic will be able to keep up with that. So we've seen over the last few years that Rangers and Celtic have got a really, really poor, and let's be honest, we're focused on Rangers here. There's been a poor strike rate in terms of the quality of signing. So it'll not last forever. you know, the data marginal gain that Hearts have yielded by this partnership, it will evaporate over time. In 10 years, Hearts won't have that advantage because everyone will be doing data to such a high level. And this is what we saw in baseball. You know, sabermetrics became this huge thing, and everybody wanted to go and get Billy Bean, and then everyone wanted to go and get all these guys that worked under Billy Bean that gave the Cleveland A's or I can't remember who it was, but it was the whatever team he was working for at the time. It gave them the Oakland A's, that massive advantage. And then that lasted for a certain period. Everyone was using the data, and now it's like nuclear. It's the nuclear kind of face-off. Everyone has it, so no one has any advantage because. And I think that's what will happen in Scottish football as well. The big clubs will eventually just equal out, but Hearts have got an opportunity to strike ahead in the same way as USG have, and Rangers need to use all the elements that they have with Leeds, with the 49ers, to make sure that that's not something that Hearts are able to use and kind of strike out into the future with.
Yeah. A lot of comments coming in. The boy that medical issue that flagged up for Celtic was Joel Mavuka, but they've renegotiated that. They're bringing him in on loan as opposed to paying the fee right now for him. They're also bringing in Brentford defender Benjamin Arthur on loan as well. So not players I know a great deal about or anything about, to be honest with you. They'll be hoping they hit the ground running for them. And as
Mavuka was a good player at Bodo Glimt, Derek. He performed very well for them, but he's been in League One for 3 years and hasn't set the header alight at all. So
yeah. So there you go. EGK Channel says, we sort of touched on this, Chris, but he says, is Enciala leaving the club? He's heading out to Westerlo.
He should be. I'm surprised it's not been confirmed as yet, but we had that on the site yesterday afternoon. That he would be moving on alone to Westerlo with a fee round about £1 million or so if they take up that option at the end of the season. Not heard anything over the day to suggest that deal has fallen through or it's not on. So again, I think we're just at the club confirming stage. So hopefully that one goes through because he's a player that's not going to feature over the second half of the season. So it makes sense for all parties, that one.
Yep. Big thank you to Willie, who corrected me earlier on. Danilo looking to join. It's Nijmegen. That is how you pronounce it? Nijmegen. So there you go. Thank you to Willie for that. Love this as well. Gary says, Derek, will you be cheering on Johnny Kenny for Bolton now?
He will be. Yes.
As long as he bangs the goals in, then that's fine by me. He's not wearing the hoop jersey anymore, so that's fine by me. There was a point as well from Alan raising. Obviously, we discussed him on the show this morning. Chris checks his phone. Hopefully, it's good news. He says that Gutty, we never got Cameron Archer, similar player to Maswanisi. That was a move that sort of we discussed in the show this morning, Chris. It was dependent on a number of factors, a sort of domino effect, if you like, and it sort of was killed off relatively early on in the day, wasn't it?
Could you go to Johnny with that one just for 2 minutes? Sorry.
Oh yes, I'll go to Johnny with that one. I can't say I'm despondent at the fact that Cameron Archer is not going to be a Rangers player in this window. Oh, Chris has had to leave, so that must mean it's important. But that is someone that never exactly teed up my enthusiasm when he was linked initially. I know he's went for big money to clubs in the past, but it's not someone I don't think I'd be too overly unhappy that Rangers haven't brought him in.
Well,
of course.
You know, I don't know an awful lot about Archer other than having kind of spent a bit of time studying his stats, Derek. And I think he was a pretty prolific striker in the Championship, a goal every 2 games. So, look, he's not had a good time of it in the Premier League. But I think in the Championship, he's shown himself to be able to hit the goal trail. And if you're talking about going up against Scottish teams for Rangers, where you're going to have a lot more of the ball and a lot more ability, I think, to be on the end of chances, then, I think potentially he could have been a good signing. But listen, Rangers have signed a lot of players from that kind of neck of the woods, haven't they?
I know, exactly.
And we know that sometimes in the Championship, a £15 million player, maybe is what we would consider here in Scotland a £15 million player. And fees are inflated and quality is inflated, and you don't get the bargains that you would think you would get. That said, Joe Aribo was a right good signing for Rangers, wasn't he? He came from League One. You know, Calvin Bassey was a right good signing from Rangers. So every player is individual, and I don't think you can make a sort of sweeping statement about how someone's going to do based on anything, really. There's so many factors that are involved in it. But I don't know why, Derek, and this might be madness, but I just like the look of Naderi. There's something about this transfer that just, it passes the sniff test. I like the look of this. I might be completely wrong. I might have got this.
He's clearly, Johnny, he's clearly someone that Danny Rule rates, and he can work with him. He's the right age, of course. Of course, a number of European clubs were keeping tabs on him as well. But he's someone that wanted to join Rangers as soon as the sort of interest surfaced. So I can understand why he would want to join Rangers, of course, going from the German third tier to a club like Rangers, who wouldn't want to do that. But the fee that's being paid for him, big things expected. Oh, Chris has just jumped back in without me playing the Stone Cold tune. What did I? So, is it good news, Chris?
I didn't actually press any buttons there. I'm typing on my keyboard, so that there must be a keyboard shortcut that inadvertently adds you into StreamYard streams, which is rather unfortunate. So there may be news depending on how long we stay on for, and when someone gets back to me, we may have news, but I'll keep it at that just now while I continue to text George.
We may have news. There you go. All the reason to stay
tuned.
Don't
go anywhere, folks. It may be late, but listen, we'll stay on as long as we need to.
Well, absolutely. The message that I got said it may be tomorrow, so I don't know if we're going to stay on for that long. We'll still have a cut-off point just in case.
We're on the night shift.
Unless somebody wants to send round rolls and sausage for us, then I'm happy to stay on.
Me and Derek can do a wrestling memories podcast for 5 or 6 hours. We'll be 7 a.m. and ready for you in no time.
Yeah, we can stick Die Hard on. They can watch that. Do a watch along. That'll kill a couple of hours. We can do that. So many still tuned in. Incidentally, Peter says biggest audience ever. Johnny, I think we're nearly touched on 6,000 tuning in. I can't remember that the biggest shows that we've done on the channel. I think usually when managers get the bullet, deadline day shows are usually well viewed in terms of numbers. Just trying to think if there's anything else. Remember
the Bruges one was huge, wasn't it? The Bruges after Bruges won 6-0, it was huge. Unfortunately for us, because we've had these 4 years where Rangers haven't been very good in domestic football, the spikes have often been coinciding with bad things, with the exception, obviously, of the run to Seville, which was, again, those were huge shows. I think after Leipzig and the morning after the night before, Derek, when you came in, clearly the worst from where, on the verge of
I wasn't supposed to be on it. I actually spewed everywhere as soon as I came off that video. My wife actually took pictures of me over the toilet, spewing my guts up. So it was a miracle I never spewed live on air.
Because where did you watch the game? You watched it in
it's called Bar None. It's at the Rangers bar in Benalmádena, I think that's how you pronounce it, which is near Malaga and the Spanish coast. Great little Rangers bar. So we watched the game there, and it was one of the greatest nights of my life, I've got to say. But I felt it the next day, that's for sure. you were at Ibrox, weren't you, Johnny? Were you at Ibrox for the game?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I wasn't at Ibrox for the game. No, I was doing all sorts of like back end stuff back here. Everything. So yeah, that's one of my big regrets, missing that.
Yeah, Chris, you were there, weren't you?
I wasn't listening. What game are you talking about? Sorry.
Never mind. Just come in if you get something important to say. Me and Johnny will man the fort. Man the fort here. Marbles 81 get some inside info. Says Jerome Rotten outside at Ibrox. He was rotten. I remember at the time when Rangers signed, I was like, used to be a right good player. Played for France. Played in the Champions League final for Monaco. But it's let's just say his legs had gone.
Slow as a week in the jail by the time he turned up.
Yeah.
He was actually very good in the first game. It was a Champions League game.
He was.
He was thrown into, and I remember thinking, oh, he's going to be a right good signing. But it was just one of those classic kind of adrenaline took him through it, and he was pretty good in that game, but he was really poor after that. And Walter Smith wasn't long in weeding him out and getting him out the door again.
No, I think was it Stuttgart at that game. I can't remember, but I'm sure. He did reasonably well. But that was pretty much that. Big hello to Fraser. He says enjoying listening to the show from Perth, West Australia. Derek looking smart with his yellow tie, plus cool sound effects. A Sheila magnet. Oh, there you go. Need to get myself down under. A bit of a babe magnet. There you go. David McFarlane says, Chris, did we really reject 35 million for Raskin? Thank you for your donation, incidentally, David. I've not seen this 35 million quid for Nico Raskin. I know that Celtic have turned down a quite staggering amount for Arne Engels. For a start, I don't know what Nottingham Forest are thinking about, and for Celtic to knock back, what is it, 25 million quid there or thereabouts? Just seems madness to me, but there you go. But if he's worth that, then Raskin surely worth 35 million plus.
If they did, I don't know about it, and if they did, I don't think any other sports writer in the whole of Europe knows about it. I did see, I think this is one of these internet rumours that grows a bit of arms and legs. But, as far as I'm aware, no. I think Nico is a good player. I think he's got a good bit of value to Rangers, but he's not worth £35 million. So I think a bit of common sense would tell you that that's not the... that's not something that has happened over the course of the last 24 hours, and plenty has over the course of the last 24 hours or the last month. But no, that's not true, that one.
Yeah, there we go. So we've knocked that one on the head. There's a point as well I wanted to bring up. This one, a few others saying that Derek, well, this is when Joshua was on, it's Nadiri, the WoW player that Danny Rule spoke of course, not so long ago. He's looking to bring in a WoW player. Perhaps... we're still 6 and a bit minutes to go. Perhaps we'll get a WoW player. Very much doubt it at this point, but I think that will be. I've got to say, personally speaking, I think that is a decent window. Of course, we'll need to wait to see these boys in action, as we just touched on there. I like the sound of Nadiri without having only just watched his YouTube clips. Of course, I want to see two Romans. Hopefully, we see him tomorrow. Incidentally, folks, is not tomorrow, Wednesday is press conference day tomorrow. We'll hear from Danny Rule. He's due to speak to us at 9:30. So we'll be bringing you that whilst we're on air tomorrow. I think Blair is on with me on the briefing tomorrow. Is it your good self going along to the training centre, Chris, or is Joshua heading along for us?
I thought Blair was going tomorrow. So classic Rangers Review organisation here as we decide what's happening in 10 hours' time live on the show. But as far as I'm aware, I'm not going to the press conference or on the video tomorrow morning. If that changes, I'll either see you, Derek, or I'll see Danny Rule. So both will be a pleasure. But only one will shake my hand.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to hear what Danny Rule has to say, certainly on Ryan Naderi. Rangers have got a huge game, Johnny, on Wednesday when Kilmarnock come to town. A Kilmarnock team that will be buoyed after that victory over Aberdeen. No Finlay Curtis, of course, he cannot play against his parent club, but they have brought in some new additions, and they're not going to be any pushovers, aren't they?
No. But, I think that the really difficult fixture was the one that Rangers have just had. I think Kilmarnock are, never easy opponents. But I think ultimately they've not been good this year. And if you're looking to play someone in the league, them or Livingston are ultimately going to be probably two of your picks. It's at home, and I think it's a must-win, really. I think Rangers need to get back on the horse and get 3 points and start putting pressure back on to building it back up again. Kilmarnock have signed a lot of players. I think there's 6 players in the window. Finlay Curtis, of course, won't be playing against Rangers, as you say. And so that's one thing I think is always part of a smart loan strategy, if you're looking to get players out on loan so that they can develop and become better players, then a positive of that is if they do become important in the teams that they go to, then they don't play against you in the games, but they play against your opponents. Might be that Finlay Curtis has an impact in the title race because he scores a goal against Hearts or Celtic in the months and weeks ahead, and that would certainly be something that that Rangers would like to see. You could see the same of Lyle Cameron at Aberdeen. You know, if he's able to produce a moment of magic against one of the other big two, then Rangers will say that that's kind of paid for the whole transfer. So, but in terms of the game itself, it's a must-win. Every game's a must-win domestically for Rangers at the moment, but it gives you the opportunity to get back on the horse. It's at Ibrox. I think Aberdeen against Celtic is one to watch because while Celtic have a very, 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 very good record against Aberdeen and never seem to have the same problems that Rangers have had over the last 4 or 5 years, I think Aberdeen are coming in that in right good form, and I think they've made a couple of good signings in this window. So I think they'll fancy themselves to cause some problems. Celtic are winning under Martin O'Neill, but they are not playing well. And against Falkirk, they were lucky. So I think it's tempting for Rangers fans when you don't watch the Celtic games to think, well, they're getting a bit of momentum, and they are, while they're in a better place than they were under Wilfred Nancy, they are not a good side. You know, I really, really don't think that there's an awful lot of quality to be concerned about there. They might still go on to win the league, but this is the poorest Celtic team that Rangers have faced in a long, long while.
Yeah. Big thank you to John Cameron, who's kindly donated to the channel. Says watching from Victoria, Canada. Thanks for keeping us up to date, guys. Now, thank you, John, for tuning in. Rangers have now confirmed that Clinton Enciala has joined Westerlo on a loan until the end of the season with an option to buy. And they say everyone at the club wishes Clinton well for his loan spell, as we reported. That buy option believed to be in the region of £1 million. And I incidentally think he can do all right over there in Belgium. I think the football will suit him. Issam Sharai I rate as a coach, and I think he can get the best out of him. So, wish Clinton all the very best. I would like to have seen more of him, but obviously a number of Rangers managers did not fancy him, and it's probably for his own good, and he's probably agreed himself that he has to go out somewhere else to play games, and he has done so. MJ Page 87 is kindly donated to the channel. Thank you, buddy. Says, Chris, you're teasing me with might be other news. Less than 2 minutes to go. No announcement as yet on Ryan Naderi. No indication from Rangers when that will be announced. Of course, deals can be completed before the deadline, but whether they're announced before the deadline is another matter, Chris.
That's always one of the joys of this particular time of year, isn't it? That you know some days out that there's interest, you inch it over the line, you get it as close as you can, and people still don't believe you until it's official and it's on the club website. So we are just waiting for Rangers to hold up their end of the bargain now, if you like, and to do with the and to get on with pictures and announcements, and there'll also be some quotes from the manager, and I'd imagine there'll be a quote from the player himself. I don't know if we'll get full RTV interviews and that type of thing, but if it's not announced by 11 o'clock tonight, people don't have to start fretting, and no doubt there will be rumours of this, that and the next thing. If it's not announced by 11 o'clock, people can still go to their bed. When they wake up in the morning, Ryan Naderi will be a Rangers player.
There you go.
Yeah,
confident. Derek, can I just put my hand up and say I'm very tired, and I've just made a bit of a traditional buzz up when I was talking about Aberdeen there. As everyone is telling me, Kilmarnock did indeed absolutely pump Aberdeen 3-0 at the weekend. I was mixed up and was thinking back to the 6-2 game against Livingston and thought that and mixed those two games up. So I hold my hands up. I was talking rubbish. Thank you. Thank you.
I can't remember what you said, which tells you how concentrated I am on the show. It's way past my bedtime as well. It is now 11 p.m. And fair play to everyone here at the review for sticking in a good old shift today. And
there you go. Someone agrees with me.
There you go. Fantastic stuff. Over 6,000 now tuning in, which is amazing. Thank you to you all for tuning in to the show. It's very much appreciated, folks. Remember, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you aren't a subscriber already. But we'll call it a day there, I think. Yeah, I think for me, good old window on paper, but they need to start doing the biz on the park and starting on Wednesday. As I touched on earlier, folks, we'll be back on at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Who knows who'll be on with me, but someone will. And obviously, press conference taking place at the same time. So we'll bring you what Managerial had to say ahead of the game on Wednesday. Right.
Just before you go, people are getting like this.
Get the music queued up, Derek.
Really not. I thought that was going to be the noise that you get at the start of a movie there. See when you go at the cinema. I thought that's where we were heading. The deal for Naderi is done. Official confirmation will be as expected shortly. So you don't have to fret. He is a Rangers player and everything is in place. So Rangers, as we outlined, Rangers had agreed a deal to sign him in the summer. We brought that story to you yesterday, but over the course of the day, it's obviously progressed and has moved on. So Rangers will pay slightly more to bring him in now. We understand that the fee is around about 5.5 million euros, so about £5 million.
Record fee for that division.
It is a record fee for that division. I think even if it had gone through at the lower rate, Rangers had a bid of over 3 million knocked back the other day there. I think that was even ahead of that at that record fee, but at just over £5 million, it's definitely a record for that. So he has signed, he is here, as we have reported, as people have seen. So that one is all over the line. Ryan Naderi is a Rangers player, around about £5 million. So that's your latest update. And with that, we can bid you all farewell, good night, and I will see you all tomorrow.
Yeah, you wait 2 hours for a transfer, and then one comes right at the end.
Perfect timing, Rangers. Tom Green says Derek will launch the tie as soon as he's off screen. You better believe it, Tom. The tie and shirt are getting launched, and I'm heading straight into my scratcher because I'm up in about half an hour to do the morning briefing. But that is the way of life here at the Rangers Review. But we'll bring you the statement, the announcement from Rangers, and the comments from Danny Rule on Ryan Naderi tomorrow morning. Make sure you stay tuned for that. Right. Night, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in once again, and we'll chat again soon. Bye for now.